Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. Welcome. Welcome back. So, I have a lot that I want to say today. First off, let me just say this. On the Super Bowl question, I was wrong. And I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong. So when I look back at the cards that I got for the Eagles were snake, fox, and fish. And the cards that I got for the Chiefs were crossroads, sun, and clouds. And the clouds should have told me that things would not go according to plan for them. A snake is tricky, so is a fox, and fish is money, and they won the Super Bowl, and they all get money from that. I wanted the Eagles to win personally. Anyway, I always make the case to you that I am not your doctor. I am not your lawyer. I am not your financial advisor, nor am I your bookie. I hope you didn't take to the bank my prediction on the Super Bowl. This is meant to be a channel for prediction and commentary on social and political issues, and I will stay away from sports henceforth. So, um, this particular video, I suspect, will be more commentary than prediction, but there'll be some prediction uh, as part of it. I'm growing new locks, and they kind of sprout out where I least expected them. It's like, what is that? Okay, anyway. Um, But we are in murky water here in this country. And so I want to say out of the gate that it looks like Gabbard and, dare I say, Kennedy will both be confirmed. I know I have said they wouldn't be, and if all was right with the world, they wouldn't be, but I think they will be. Um, there's a quote, let's see if I can find it, from an author I quite like, James Baldwin. He was an author, a Black writer, gay writer, who moved to France because he was just so fed up with things here. But at any rate, he was from the literary genre called protest literature. So he wrote in the 60s protest literature. But anyway, this is a quote from him. The subtle and deadly change of heart that might occur in you would be involved with the realization that a civilization is not destroyed by wicked people. It is not necessary that people be wicked, only that they be spineless. That's a quote from James Baldwin. And we are um, represented by spineless people. First off, you've got the Republicans. Now, let me just say a few things. First of all, apparently there have been polls taken, and 90%, 93% of all Republicans are just fine with the way that Trump and Musk are handling things. I think that is telling. I think it is also interesting that there has not been what I would call a groundswell of response from the Democrats. I think that either the Republicans like what's happening or they're afraid. And I gather that there are some Republican lawmakers who are saying that no, they're not afraid for themselves, but they're afraid for their families. Their families have been threatened. Listen, I have a family. I wouldn't want my family to be threatened. But if you remember, or if you can Google it, Martin Luther King gave a speech right before he was killed. And he said, like everyone, I'd like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but it's not the alpha and the omega. It's how we live our lives. right? It's whether our lives have meaning. You didn't hear Dr. King say, they firebombed my house with my four little children and my wife in it. So you know what? I'm out. I'm not going to do this anymore. He didn't do that. I mean, everybody's not cut out to be a Martin Luther King. I understand that. But maybe some of the people who think that they're cut out for uh, to represent the public are not cut out for that either. Because if fear can make them do the wrong thing, sit on their hands, vote in a way that they know is inimical, meaning hostile to the common good, well, what are you doing? So, I have also seen of late reporters asking politicians, so are we approaching a constitutional crisis? And the politicians on both sides will say, well, if the judges hand down these rulings and 47 doesn't comply, then yeah, we'll be in a constitutional crisis. I mean, in other words, they don't think we're in a constitutional crisis yet. I'll tell you a story. You like my stories? I'll tell you a story. So my husband had been in the hospital and he had been fine. I saw him on the Saturday night, and then the Sunday, I went to see him in the morning. And I got to the hospital and I noticed that an orderly was sweeping stuff from in his room. And I thought, well, I'll wait till the guy's finished before I go in. And he's sweeping stuff up and he's kind of loud, there's two of them, I think. And they were joking and laughing. And I thought to myself, well, I hope my husband's not sleeping because, they'll wake him up. And they were sweeping stuff up like plastic and paper and like a lot of trash. And I thought, where did all that come from? But, I couldn't see into the room. So I thought, I'll wait till they finish doing what they're doing, and then I'll go in and see my husband. So as I waited, I looked over at the nurse's station and I saw my husband's doctor. And I said, oh, good morning, Dr. So-and-so. And she looked at me and her eyes got all wide. She came from around the nurse's station and she put her hand on my back and the small of my back, and she started to walk me down the hall away from my husband's room, which I thought was weird, but okay. And she said, so uh, this morning we had some trouble with his breathing. I said, oh, I said, did you have to intubate? He's going to hate that. And she said, well, and then we had some trouble with his heart rate. So I'm thinking, where are we going with this story? So I decided, you know what I'm going to do? In the moment, I decided I'm just going to say the worst thing I can think of. At which point she will say to me, oh God, no, nothing like that. So I said, are you trying to tell me that my husband is dead? And she said, yes. I mean, and I said, show me. So we walked back to the room and there he was. The orderlies had left and he looked peaceful, like he was asleep. So I still thought she was kidding. So I went over to him and I kissed him, and half his mouth was warm and half his mouth was cold. And that's when I said, and I looked at him and I said, you left me. I don't know what I thought. I thought maybe he would pop up like a jack in the box. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And I tell you that story to say that um, sometimes we have to hear hard things that we don't want to hear. And sometimes people have to tell us hard things that they don't want to tell us. That doctor no more wanted to tell me that my husband was dead than a hole in the wall. It's why her eyes got wide. It's why she walked me away from the room. It's why she sort of hemmed and hawed about what had gone wrong, until I asked the question, are you trying to tell me my husband is dead? And she said yes. Now, I am not putting my husband's death on a par with what we're experiencing now, except I don't know, maybe I am. We are in a constitutional crisis. The next thing that will happen is that 47 will say to the judges, make me, prove it. He will take the advice of his hero, uh, Andrew Jackson, the guy who said, uh, you know, tell the court, okay, you've made your rule. Make me. Make me do what you say you want me to do. If we do not have an agreement that the law should be obeyed, then we have no constitutional democracy. It doesn't exist. So I think, despite hopes to the contrary, it looks like Gabbard will be confirmed, and it looks like Kennedy will be confirmed. So that's bad news. It looks like the steamroller will continue to steamroll. It looks like Republicans will continue to appreciate and approve of everything 47 does until they don't. And what point will that be? When some of these rulings start to affect them. When some of them who are federal workers don't have jobs. When they can't get Medicaid. When they can't get insulin at the same price that they could get it under the last administration. And by the way, speaking of the last administration, Democrats are not a whole lot better than Republicans, right? They say that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Power is a heady perfume that people like the smell of and don't want to let go. Look at Nancy Pelosi. Now, it's also true that Pluto is in Aquarius. What does that mean? It's not some little one and done thing. It talks about major upheaval. And that is what we are about to live through. I mean, I have talked about bird flu, and I've had people say that, oh, I'm being an alarmist. Okay, fine. Uh, Bird flu is going to be a thing, and I've shown you that in the cards. Uh, Everything that we know is about to become undone. Now, listen, I'm not saying that we should ignore it then, or, you know, or stop fighting the good fight, because we're involved in this, right? But I will tell you, as a Black person, I totally get the thing about drinking our water and minding our business. Because look, as racist and misogynistic and homophobic and xenophobic as 47 and Project 2025 and its people are, they reflect the feelings of fully half the country. And so the story that we've always told ourselves about who we are and the story that we've exported to the world about who we are, there are people who have said all along, Really? Because that's not my experience. Are we really the land of the free and the home of the brave? And give me your tired, huddled masses yearning to be free? Are we, is that really who we are? Because that's not my experience. There are a lot of us who say that. And so there are a lot of us who are saying, okay, this is the punch in the gut that the country needed to confront who we really are, and then to make the decision, is this who we really want to be? Because the jury's out on that. I'm just saying, the jury is out on that. We are built on the quest for money and subjugation of anyone who's not a white male. And we sold the world a very different story about who we are. But as I've said, I'm sure I've mentioned this before on YouTube, as a Black person, I always felt like I was living in a fun house where everything is distorted. And you can't say, excuse me, this seems distorted, because then they'll look at you like you're crazy. It's kind of like an episode from The Twilight Zone, where you're the one who's sane, but everybody in the society has agreed to be crazy and to tell themselves a story about it. And if you happen to say, excuse me, that story doesn't match up with my experience, then you're the one who's wrong and ostracized. So as I think about what I would like this channel to be about moving forward, um, I don't want to be uh, I don't want to be particularly doing game day predictions. And by game day, I don't mean sports. I mean, what's the latest thing that's going to happen? And then try to read it in its most optimistic um, light. Because I think that we are in a constitutional crisis. We are led by craven people who are driven by, okay, fear of 47, okay, but also greed and lust for power. I think people like AOC and Jasmine Crockett are fantastic. They're the progressive wing. But I think that, the entire country is about to be unmade. That's the bad news, I guess. The good news is that once the dust has settled and all the damage done, and there will be damage to everyone, we have an opportunity to create something different, something new. What that is, however, remains to be seen, because fully 50% of us are not interested in the other 50% of us enjoying the benefits of a free and just society. How do I know? Okay, just the fact that diversity, equity, and inclusion have joined the word woke as pejorative terms. Is that not living in the upside down? Is that not strange to you? You know, I will have people on here saying, you need to give us some hope. We come here to hear your hope. Well, there's a lot of channels that will give you hope. I think in the short run, it will be a very rough ride from which there will be no escape. The good news is, in the fullness of time, we will have the opportunity to say, are we good with this? Do we like this? Do we want this to continue? Or are we really finally looking under the rug and seeing ourselves as a country for who we really are and who we've been. We pay lip service to being one way, and yet we're another way. For the words diversity, equity, and inclusion to have to line up next to woke as curse words, as pejoratives, as things not to aspire to. Does that not tell you all you need to know? We Americans want to wait for somebody to save us, to rescue us. First, it was going to be Kamala. And then when it couldn't be Kamala, oh, it's going to be Michelle. Then it was going to be the International Criminal Court and NATO. No one is coming to save us. You have options about what you do with what I just said. You can be mad. You can be depressed. You can be disaffected and detach yourself from things. I mean, you're free to do all of that. I'm not here to tell you what to do and how to respond, but I think I will use my cards moving forward in ways that are that continue to be, I think, and even more so, will be, telling you the truth as my cards show it to me. And my cards are a reflection of what my higher self knows. We have such an opportunity in front of us. But first, we have to snap out of it. Be woke. Wake up. Grow a pair. Be courageous. Voice our objections. Make our phone calls. March in the street. I do think that there will be some sort of Bastille-like response to everything that happens. And I think it'll be Republicans and Democrats and independents and none of the above all together who storm the Bastille and say, enough of this. This is not who we want to be as a country. But it's not going to happen tomorrow, and it's not going to happen next week. You know, Pluto in Aquarius means an upending such that we've never experienced it before. The way that my world was upended when the doctor said, yes, your husband's dead. But I lived through that, and we can live through this. So, uh, we have some tough times ahead. Yes, we are in the middle of a constitutional crisis. We are also in the middle of a redefinition by the rest of the world of who America is, relative to whom she claims to be. And that's not going to be fun. Uh, we will have to take our place as one country among many. We tell ourselves that we're exceptional, and yet look what we have proven ourselves to be susceptible to. The same kinds of coups, because this is a coup, as every other country is susceptible to. And we're very, very, very young. We're like teenagers who, drive drunk and think it won't happen to them. That's what this nation is like. So this is not a cheerful message, but it's an honest message. And I guess I'll just pull some cards and ask, how do we move forward in the face of the constitutional crisis that we're in the face of this undoing of who we we thought we were. This upending of everything that we know about ourselves. Um, how do we navigate that? And how do we steer ourselves closer to this opportunity that will come uh, for creating the country that we want? What is that all about? So I think what I'm going to do is use as the significator for this reading the stars. Mm. And I think I'm going to ask, what will America in the end choose to become? Because the jury's out on that. The jury is out on that. And by the way, you may be tempted to pack your bags and move to another country. And where might that be? Where might that be where the situation will be easier for you? And how will you be welcomed? And what will you be able to tell your children you did when we were faced with this identity crisis? So I'm here for the duration. I'm here for the long haul, knowing full well at my age that I may never see the other side of this. I may not live to see the other side of this. My children may not live to see the other side of this. This is the long game. And we're not even in the first quarter yet because people don't even realize that we're on the field. Somebody who said, I'm not going to talk about sports. There I go again. But let's just see what will the future hold for us. And when I say the future, I mean, I'm going to call it the fullness of time future, right? Once we have gone through all of this, 47 is a chaos agent meant to effectuate Pluto and Aquarius, as is Musk. They are the agents of Pluto and Aquarius. Uh, where will we be once all of the dust has settled and we have an opportunity to decide who it is we want to be? So I'm going to look for the star because that's the card for the future. Okay, so this is the American future once all the dust clears. So we have the mountain, we have the child, here's our star, we have the bear, and we have the man. And I'm going to pull some clarifiers before I talk about these cards. I'll let you watch. Again, I don't like to be Pollyanna, but I mean, I also don't like to be the doom bringer either. So let's see. So the original cards, right, were the mountain, the child. This card stands for our future. We have the bear, and then we have this young man. So the mountain, this is going to take a long, long time before we are remade, because obviously, before we are remade, we have to be undone. And we are in the process of being undone right now. Judges have said Yeah, 47, you can't do that. 47's response will be prove it. Uh, if you recall, the Supreme Court essentially gave him imperial powers. Now, the Supreme Court will not be the court that addresses all of these different lawsuits that he's facing. They'll only take, a couple, in a particular court season, that's good news because it means that lower courts, which have told him, yeah, no, you can't do that, that whatever those lower courts say could be the final word on any particular given lawsuit. But the question still remains, or the fact remains, that he will say, so what are you going to do about it? And what is a lower court going to do about it? Arrest him? I mean, that would be great. But unless there are people in the streets on a grand scale, the courts will have their hands tied. They have issued the ruling, but the court only serves at the pleasure of the people. So if he says, yeah, I'm not following that law, then what? This will take a long, long time. But we have the option of becoming something new, something new in the future. And we have this bear and this young man card. I think this is what we really have to wrestle with, this idea of American exceptionalism and the way in which it has benefited us, not all of us, and the way that it has hobbled us because it's made it impossible for us to see ourselves clearly the way the world sees us now. So, the temptation will be to say, we're still exceptional. We're still the best country in the world. Everybody's lesser than we are. There will be that temptation because it's all we know. And we can't envision things that we have never been, right? Without some imagination. And imagination is called for in these times. Okay, so we go back now to the mountain, and the clarifiers for that are the tree, the sun, and the older man. So this is a very slow card. This will happen very, very slowly. The revolution will not happen tomorrow or next week or next year or maybe in the next 4 years. Slow. Again, slow. This can be years before we are all willing to see that the way we've done business is kind of played out, old, passé, uh, not helpful, not useful, just old, and not in keeping with Pluto and Aquarius. Second card, something new. We have the scales, we have the key, and we have the dog. Well, after this long time of undoing and sort of tearing apart and pulling seams out of who we have been, we have this opportunity to create something new. Again, sorry to use the word since it's on the bad word list, more equitable, more fair, more inclusive. That is the key. That is the question. Do we want to open that door with that key? It would make us better friends to each other, better friends to the world, more trustworthy, more dependable, and not in a transactional way. The question is, do we want that? Okay, here we are in the center, star. This is our future. And we have the ladder, the mice, and the clouds. And if you think of this, even though this card is in the center, this, I mean, even though this card is meant to be about the future, and it is, comes in the center line. So this is kind of where we are now. This is votes, and then we have the mice and the clouds. Like I should have read in the Super Bowl with the Chiefs, those clouds, though, at the end, the last card meant a problem. We are confused about who we want to be. And we're like mice running after our tails. There's a lot of anxiety and worry and stress. We all feel it. This is the present moment. This is how we feel now. But I mean, at least we feel it. I think that part's good. More of us need to feel this way because out of dis-ease can come a cure for what ails us, which is a lot. So the fact that we feel this pain, look, there's things that people, conditions that people can have where they don't feel pain. That's not good. I mean, it sounds good. Who wants to feel pain? But if you don't feel pain, then you are not alerted in your body, right, to the fact that there's a problem. We have a problem with our body politic. And right now we are only starting to feel the pain. Pain has to come before there's a diagnosis. Pain has to come before there is a prescription, and pain has to come before there is a healing. So we have to just sit in the pain of what we have become with the awareness that 50% of our population put us here, brought us these agents of chaos and confusion and hatred in order to effectuate Pluto's upending influence in Aquarius. Okay, what's coming in? So we have the bear, we have the book, we have the fish, we have the woman. So this card needs to think about whether it wants to morph into a different meaning than the one that I tend to use a lot in these readings. This is, hate to say it, but 47 is a narcissist. So is the country. We have to decide, do we want to have this bear wear a different costume? Because he has other costumes on the rack that he can wear. One of them, for example, is the good mother. Right now, we're not sure what that would even look like. But we know that what we're feeling doesn't feel good. We want it to feel better. And again, there's a lot of talk about feminine energy coming more to the fore. That's a good thing. This is yin energy. We don't always have to be, with our dukes up, aggressive, hostile, assertive, racist, misogynistic, xenophobic. We can choose another way. This card mirrors this card. So can the narcissist become the good mother? Can the country become a nurturer of her people instead of, I don't know, a leech on her people or I don't know, an autocratic dictator of her people? How can the state, the country, mirror that good mother energy? And good mothers nurture, good mothers take care of, good mothers teach. The object of being a good mother is Eventually, your children don't need you anymore, right? But we have never embodied that good mother energy. It's always been this aggressive energy. But this feminine yin energy will come more and more to the fore once the dust has settled. Our final original card was this young man, and the clarifiers are the anchor, the ring, and the lily. The country will need to be remade anew, hopeful in a new and different way. And we will have to sort of plant that anchor deep and be committed to it. And I love the lily because here the reading starts out with the mountain. So again, this is not quick, fast, and in a hurry. Things will happen really slowly. Like I said, I may not see this in my lifetime because right now this is where we are. But can be the place where we end up. This is the place of wisdom, self-understanding, peace, both internally and in the world, maturity. Uh, we can get to that place, but right now we have to weather this place. So that's what I see on that. Um, I'm sure that I will be back soon with sort of specific questions to look at. Please feel free to leave your questions in the comments section and I will look at them. But, do I think we are currently in the middle of a constitutional crisis? Yes. Do I think things will get considerably worse before they get better? Again, yes. Do I think that we will choose a different way? I hope so. That last card is the lily, shows us the promise and the possibility of that. But you know what? Energy is mutable. Energy is mutable. I didn't think that Gabbard and Kennedy would have a chance of getting through. But again, as Baldwin says, the government is full of craven people, self-interested, craven people. Doesn't mean that they're bad people, doesn't mean they're wicked people. It means they're cowardly people. And at this point, it looks like they are willing to roll over. The question is with the judiciary, will there be enough in the judiciary, again, lower than the Supreme Court? Because remember, they gave him imperial power. So if we're holding out hope that the Supreme Court will save us from all this great dismantling, that's not going to happen. But lower courts could make their rulings known. The problem is, what do you do when a lower court issues its instruction, its finding, its ruling, and 47 says, yeah, you and what army? So this is where we are. It's not a pretty picture, but it is the picture. And what can we do? We can pray. We can write our representatives. We can gather in the streets. We can talk to each other. We can light candles. We can set intentions. I mean, there are lots of things we can do, but we cannot, this cup will not pass from our lips. And to pretend that it can is wasting time. It's wasting time. So I won't be doing that here. I will be telling you the truth as I see it. I always have, mind you. Um, and so that's what you would come to this channel for. There are other channels which do the same, and then there are others who will offer you something different. And depending on where you are in your own personal trajectory, that'll dictate where you go. I hope you stay, um, because I'm in this too. I am not watching this with popcorn and a glass of wine. I'm a citizen as well, and so I'm in this with you all. Um, anyway, that's all I had to say today, and I'll come back another time with more. Maybe we'll look at some specific situations. So feel free to leave those in the comments for me to look at. Check out my Substack. I'll be writing a new one tomorrow. Just go to substack.com, or there's an app, Substack app. If you look for my name or you look for In the Company of Cards, you can find me there. It's free to subscribe. I may be putting some things behind a paywall, but not yet. Okay, take care and have a great Tuesday.